A docile society, a discourse based on manipulation, a reality that is intended to be hidden. Parental Alienation Syndrome, at the forefront of PAS denialism. This work is the most specialized and complete treatise available on the subject, addressing its legal, psychological, sociological, and political aspects. The author, Esteban Bastida Martin, is a lawyer of the Madrid Bar Association and founding partner of Bastida Abogados. For more than 20 years, he's been handling family law and criminal law cases related to family law, being a national reference in cases of parental alienation, domestic violence, false allegations of gender violence, child abduction, violation of human rights, as well as judicial errors and abuses. The work is composed of 3 volumes. Volume 1 demonstrates with irrefutable arguments and reasoning that parental alienation syndrome is a criterion studied and recognized by the scientific community, a legal criterion recognized by the European Court of Human Rights. Alienating a child to reject or hate a parent is a serious crime of psychological child abuse. The process of alienation and its culmination is also a form of psychological violence against the parent rejected or hated by the child. The work settles the controversies about the non-existence of parental alienation syndrome and false allegations of gender violence. The author unravels and unmasks the fallacies of the gender ideologists, fanatical deniers of PAS. Esteban Bastida claims that citizens must unceasingly demand the independence of the judiciary to stop the intolerable interference of politicians, judges, prosecutors, and radical feminist associations in the exclusive clinical field of psychiatrists and psychologists, the only ones with scientific authority to diagnose and therapeutically treat a minor victim of parental alienation. Volume 2 – Gender Ideology versus Justice. Volume 2 shows how gender ideology influences justice, society, and education. It shows how lawyers should act in court against PAS denialism. In this volume, we find real cases of PAS, false allegations of gender violence and sexual abuse of minors, as well as national and international jurisprudence on this syndrome. Volume 3 – Practical Forms. Volume 3 is composed of practical forms on PAS, which serve as a guide and aid to lawyers in order to properly exercise the right of defense of the defendant in all Spanish courts, as well as in international courts. But what is PAS? It's psychological abuse that can be exercised by a father or a mother in front of their children to make them believe how perverse the other parent is, so that the child rejects or hates a father or a mother and breaks the parental bond. How does it happen? Isolation, control, uncertainty, repetition of the message, and emotional manipulation are the perverse manipulation techniques that alienators use to brainwash their children and thus change their beliefs and feelings towards the parent they once loved. The alienator isolates the child from his or her environment by telling the child that the other parent is bad, doesn't love him or her, doesn't care about him or her. The child's beliefs about the beloved parent are the same as they've always been, but there's no one to reaffirm them. The child responds automatically without stopping to think. It's repeated several times to break their resistance and get them to reacquaint themselves with the message. Gender ideology aims to accommodate reality to its ideas. The lack of critical thinking leads to the repetition by a large majority of people of the same false discourse that this gender ideology has managed to insert into the minds of the masses. PAS does not exist. It is a junk science. It is a neo-chauvinist invention to mistreat women and cover up incest. The reality is that PAS has nothing to do with male violence. The author urges the public authorities to provide real protection for minors who are victims of parental alienation, making clear the imperative need for a free, impartial and independent judiciary in matters of PAS. A fundamental book for those who see how justice does nothing to help their alienated children, for those magistrates, prosecutors, lawyers, psychiatrists, pediatricians and psychologists who encounter these situations in the exercise of their profession. Also, for people sensitized against any form of abuse to which a minor may be subjected, and sensitized to males falsely denounced for gender violence. Discover Parental Alienation Syndrome at the forefront of PAS denialism. A book that offers all the answers and solutions to effectively combat this human drama faced by minors, fathers or mothers rejected or hated by their own children, and which is hidden by Spanish institutions. A work created to achieve the justice that the Spanish Constitution guarantees us.